nearly 2 years before his tenure ends. Remember, it also comes right ahead of Hasina's planned return to Bangladesh. We get you more on the country's political upheaval up ahead. But first, let's talk about what's been happening in India's national capital. The Neet paper leak saga has now entered a critical phase. The impasse between the government and the cockroach movement continues over Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. The Union Cabinet has approved the draft paper leak amendment bill to ensure strict punishment for paper leaks. The Supreme Court of India has swung into action as well. The deadlock continues in the Parliament and the protests are underway at Jantar Mantar. The CJP delegation met with government representatives led by JP Nadda and Dr. Jitendra Singh at the Constitution Club. After the meeting, CJP leaders said that the government has agreed to compensate the kin of the Neet paper leak suicide victims and withdraw the cases against the protesters who took part in CJP's Sansad Chalo or the Parliament March. However, the government has sought more time on the third demand, that is the Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. Both sides have agreed to meet again tomorrow for further talks.
The government has agreed in principle to provide compensation to the suicide victims of Neet paper leak and withdraw legal cases against protesters. Government has sought more time for Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. We will meet again tomorrow. CJP will have to give a national call if Pradhan does not resign.
They had 3 demands and 5 requests for education reforms. We will hold another meeting with CJP representatives tomorrow and communicate the discussions that we are going to hold within the government.
On the other hand, Prime Minister Modi held a cabinet meeting at the Parliament. PM Modi issued a video message as well, assuring the protesting students of more steps against paper leaks. Now, the cabinet has passed the paper leak amendment bill. It will ensure stricter punishment for perpetrators of the paper leaks. The fine print of this proposed amendment is now available, but as per the existing law, remember, the punishment for offences related to paper leak start from 3 years of imprisonment and it goes up to 10 years. The fine starts at 10 lakh rupees and it can go up to 1 crore rupees depending on the various classifications of the paper leak offences. The Supreme Court of India, meanwhile, has directed the central government and the National Testing Agency, or the NTA, to file a detailed affidavit on the progress made in implementing the reforms after the Neet undergraduate paper leak. The 2-judge bench of the Apex Court also sought status report and reforms at every stage of the examination cycle. The Union government has assured the Supreme Court that it is going 10 extra miles to ensure the integrity of the Neet examination. The court has scheduled the next hearing in this case on the 27th of July. Meanwhile, activist Sonam Wangchuk has ended his hunger strike at the Medanta hospital after the government assured him on 2 of the 3 demands that were stated earlier. At Jantar Mantar, the founder of the Cockroach Janata Party, Abhijit Dipke, has said that the sit-in protest will continue until Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan resigns.
अब जो प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे और प्रोटेस्ट करने वालों का जो सबसे प्रमुख चेहरा है सोनम वांगचुक जी, उन्होंने भी अनशन तोड़ के अपने बात रख दिया कि अब चर्चा होना चाहिए। मेरे ख्याल से अब इसको राजनीतिकरण करके फायदा नहीं है। हम लोगों को ठोस कदम कैसे उठाना चाहिए छात्रों का भविष्य के लिए, इस पे ध्यान देना चाहिए।
Meanwhile, the leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi, has upped the ante against the government. He's echoing the same demand as the CJP, that is the resignation or the sacking of Dharmendra Pradhan. He also accused the police of using pellet guns on the protesting students. And to prove his claim, Rahul was accompanied by a man who claims to have suffered pellet gun injuries during the students' protest. Now, the deadlock continues in the Parliament as well. Both houses of the Parliament were adjourned for a 5th consecutive day of the ongoing monsoon session. The Parliament will now convene on Monday next week.
Even your own members are not sitting in their seat. What I have to do?
And our correspondent Dharamjot Kaur has sent us this report from Jantar Mantar. Take a look.
Protesters continue to pour in at the designated protest site at Jantar Mantar. In fact, people are still going to the entire enclosure. In fact, they go way beyond it to the main roads surrounding the Jantar Mantar area. And in fact, there are also a lot of police presence and RAF presence that remains intact as the evening descends and night falls on the protest site. But it has been an action-packed day with respect to conversations and negotiations between the government and the representatives of the Cockroach Janata Party. Now, there have been two demands that CJP says that the government has agreed to in principle. Demand number one being financial compensation for families of those whose children have died by suicide after the Neet paper leak scandal. And point number two is that there will be no legal ramification, no criminal proceedings against the peaceful protesters who've been here at Jantar Mantar for a while now. The sticking point, however, is the Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. And the government and CJP have both said that they will return to the negotiation table on Saturday. And so the countdown has officially begun with respect to where this conversation goes on the biggest stalemate that concerns the very future of this protest, and also the government's entire approach to take accountability with respect to the entire paper leak scandal. What happens from this point is going to be critical, and it will also set the tone for how the Parliament's second week of the monsoon session shall begin on Monday. Here at Jantar Mantar with video journalist Abhishek, this is Dharmjot Kaur for WION World is One.
All right, let's get you the big breaking news coming in at this moment as the centre is preparing a major overhaul of the National Testing Agency. A major crackdown by the NTA has been done in which 47 officials have been terminated from their posts while more cleanup is to follow. Now, remember, in a major bid to bring out the serious examination reforms, the National Testing Agency has terminated 47 officials from their service. Legal and criminal action will also be taken against some of these officials. This is, remember, part of the complete and the massive overhaul that the NTA plans to do and is doing amid this entire controversy over the Neet paper leak. So the next big step, of course, once we saw in the morning, the first step where the Higher Education Secretary was removed, he was replaced, and now you've got 47 officials of the NTA being terminated from service. So a massive crackdown within the NTA, by the NTA, 47 officials being terminated, more to follow, more reforms within the education system to follow. But remember, all of this are steps, but the biggest demand of them all, that's the Education Minister's resignation. We still haven't heard anything from the government yet on this, something that the CJP has been insisting upon and reiterating time and again. But for the moment, of course, this big breaking news coming in, a complete overhaul that is being done by the NTA. 47 of its officials have been terminated from service. With that, let's also tell you how India's youngest voters are no longer just a demographic pillar. They are becoming a political force. With Uttar Pradesh and Punjab heading towards crucial assembly elections, Gen Z is emerging as the constituency that every political party wants to win over. What began as an outrage over examination paper leaks has now turned into a wider debate over jobs, education, and opportunity. The Cockroach Janata Party protests have turned youth anger into a political issue, and a massive one. And now every party is scrambling to respond. It began with a simple question. If young Indians cannot trust the exams that decide their future, what exactly can they trust? That frustration has now spilled onto the streets. The Cockroach Janata Party started as a student movement against the Neet paper leak. But today, as we can all see, it has become a massive movement. Thousands marched towards the parliament on the 20th of July, but the police, remember, responded with tear gas and bait-in charges. Activist Sonam Wangchuk ended his 26-day hunger strike, yet the protests have continued. Because for many young Indians, as they describe it, this is no longer just about exams, it's about their future. Political parties have noticed, with Punjab set to vote in 2027 and UP following soon after, India's youngest voters have suddenly become the most valuable constituency. And the battle, remember, isn't just happening around the ground. It's happening on Instagram, on X, on YouTube, over reels, memes, viral hashtags, and now on the streets as well. In fact, the CJP itself grew almost entirely through social media, forcing political parties to enter a conversation that they did not expect. And that is why employment has become more than an economic issue. It's now an electoral issue. The government data paints a mixed picture in this. With how many young voters are set in the poll-bound states? There are nearly 18 lakh young voters in the state of UP, which encompasses to 21.19% of the electorate, while Punjab youth constitutes about 21.44% of the electorate. But those numbers don't just tell the full story. Remember, among young people aged between 15 and 29, unemployment remains quite higher than the national average. And that's exactly why government recruitment, competitive exams, and paper leaks have all become politically explosive issues. Education tells another story, one that's raising fresh questions. For the first time since the government began publishing higher education data, undergraduate enrollments have actually declined. At the same time, graduate and postgraduate numbers continue to rise. According to analysts, this trend reflects changing career choices, skill-based education, and increasing competition for quality jobs. But politically, it adds to a growing perception among the young voters that education alone is no longer enough. The BJP, remember, is treating these protests as a law and order issue so far. The opposition says it's about unemployment and accountability, as they have used this movement to attack the center. Different narratives, but same target: India's youngsters. The protests may have started over examination papers, but they're now asking much larger, wider questions. Can education still guarantee opportunity? The other question they're asking is, can governments deliver jobs? And perhaps, most importantly, can any political party truly win Gen Z without first winning back their trust? All right, joining me live tonight from New Delhi is Neeta Chaudhary. She's a political commentator and senior journalist. Neeta ji, good evening. Welcome to WION. I'll come to
Thank you.
I'll come to Gen Z a bit later. I want to first understand from you how you see what has been happening through the day today in the national capital. Everything around it has happened. The only thing that hasn't happened is the resignation of the education minister, the key demand of the CJP.
And the Cockroach Janata Party has given 24 hours time to the government to think over that, and we will know by Saturday what the government's view is on the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. That is a sticking point. Though Sonam Wangchuk didn't make it a point on which he stood firm on his resignation, on his fast, hunger fast. He broke his fast late last night or early this morning. But the other demands were the same. That's, agreed to by the government, as you said. Relief for the families of those who committed suicide and no cases against the protesters. But while Sonam Wangchuk said that this issue of accountability be discussed in Parliament fully, and the government agreed to that, the protesters still protesting at Jantar Mantar insist on Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. Now, what does one make of it? 2-3 things. One, that nobody realized the extent to which the Gen Z and even younger ones, they were 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds at the site and in the procession on July 20th, on the opening day of the monsoon session when they tried to march to Parliament. It is the extent to which they feel about the faulty examination system and a faulty education system which prevents them from getting good jobs. I think that it exercises such a hold. Whatever be the future of the politics, who gains, who loses, whether the government can do damage control, whether the opposition can encash on this issue, both will try to do that. What is the future of Cockroach Janata Party? Does it become an offline political party? Does it remain an online platform which creates a new narrative? All those things are for the future. But this one thing they put center of the radar. We want action on that. We are hurting, and this is affecting our future. Government of India, do something about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that has gone home, and because the lathi charge took place, this issue has gone to every middle class home in the country. I've
right.
heard people say this also, what if my daughter was there?
Yeah.
So they're identifying with it. So there's a ground level pressure that's being exerted, and the government has actually in the last 24 hours, from the level of the Prime Minister, Home Minister and Union Ministers, taken note of it. The Prime Minister addressing the students at midnight or 8 minutes before midnight, saying this is the law we plan to bring. Strict punishment for Neet cheaters, as he called them.
Yeah.
And tomorrow the cabinet will meet. The cabinet has met. Next week there'll be a law brought in and we will pass that law. So there is action. And of course, the other 2 points that we talked about.
Yes, Neetaji, there is step-by-step action. But, here's the interesting bit. You talked about the Prime Minister. Just the fact that the Prime Minister chose not a high pedestal or a radio platform to do his Mann Ki Baat, but, he just picked up his phone and made a selfie video to address Gen Z. That reflects that, you've made older generation, the ones who are elder to you, specifically those in power, realize that, look, we are here, we are an important voting segment for you, and we do understand what's been going on. You can't age shame us. You can't say that, look, you're only a generation about memes and social media and reels. That's all you do. Through those very memes, through those very social media reels, they've been able to generate such a massive protest and make sure that the government listens to them.
Absolutely. And and his Prime Minister told his cabinet colleagues, please use Instagram, please create reels. The potency of that tool, it's come home to everybody. If you look at the, just that, 2 things have brought thousands of young people on the streets. It was otherwise an online entity. And maybe it should remain an online entity, Cockroach Janata Party, because you can create a new narrative for the country. But that apart, that's a different debate altogether. But to say that, use Instagram, that is a new note coming from the Prime Minister also. And a recognition of the, as I say, the power of this tool.
Yeah.
That you can use it online, but they have also shown these protesters, if push comes to shove, we can also hit the streets.
Yes, yes.
Which they did.
And Neetaji, the interesting bit is it's not just restricted to New Delhi and these protests. We saw it during Vijay's victory in Tamil Nadu. You've got the younger ones using social media and telling their parents to vote for Vijay. We saw it in other areas as well, other states as well. Aam Aadmi Party, in fact, itself used this very platform to generate support for itself. Then, of course, it became something else. But for the BJP, to understand it so late, because this is a party that in 2013 was using social media, a very emerging new kind of platform, to its benefit, to have those online campaigns. But it understood perhaps very late the importance of it and the importance of what Gen Z is saying. You have to be able to connect to the younger ones because, it's their world. They are the ones who are going to be contributing to your economy as well.
No, and they are going to be the future rulers of India.
Yes.
But, for them to take 26 days to reach out to either Sonam Wangchuk or the protesters and their leaders, suppose they had sent a senior minister to Jantar Mantar 15 days ago, just to say, what is it that you want? What is it that the government can do? this might not have happened. And not to take it seriously when we have seen student demonstrations in our neighboring countries having
Yeah.
such serious consequences. This could not be taken lightly.
Yeah.
So I think there I durust hai, but I would also say from the protesters' side that even from Sonam Wangchuk's side, you've dealt with, okay, accountability, you're insisting on Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation, you're insisting on compensation for families whose children have died, you're insisting on no cases. But what about solid reforms in education for which you're fighting? You haven't given a memorandum of 10 points. Call the experts, call us, call the opposition parties, have a round table, and we must do A, B, C, D. So tomorrow, what is happening today doesn't get repeated.
That's right. And I think the opposition also needs to understand that, you've done enough protests outside the parliament. Now get inside the parliament and have a constructive discussion on the reforms that we want within our education system. But I'll leave it there. Neetji, thank you very much for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, with that, let's move on. Bangladesh's president, Mohammad Shahabuddin, has tendered his resignation. President Shahabuddin's resignation, remember, comes halfway through his 5-year term. While no official reason has been announced yet, reports suggest that the government had urged Shahabuddin to step down because of his long-standing association with former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who was ousted during the 2024 student-led uprising. The announcement comes days after Hasina said that she plans to return to Bangladesh later this year from exile to surrender after being convicted by the country's War Crimes Tribunal. Now, Sheikh Hasina has denied all these charges against her. Shahabuddin was elected unopposed in 2023 as the Awami League's nominee. He's largely served in a ceremonial role. However, following Hasina's departure from office in 2024, the presidency gained greater significance during the country's political transition. Under Bangladesh's constitution, Parliament Speaker Hafizuddin Ahmad will serve as the interim president until a new president is elected. The resignation, remember, marks the end of the last senior constitutional office held by a figure closely associated with Sheikh Hasina. This comes as Prime Minister Tariq Rahman's administration continues efforts to stabilize the country's political landscape ahead of Hasina's expected return. Moving on, Turkey's political landscape has been rocked by a major shake-up. One of the country's oldest political parties and largest opposition force has now split. Former CHP leader Ozgur Özel has decided to break ranks with the party along with 90 lawmakers. In a video released on social media, Özel was seen signing both his CHP resignation letter and the founding documents of Yeni Parti, means new party. Declaring the start of a new chapter, Özel said that the party would become the country's main opposition force. The split deals a devastating blow to the CHP, which until now has the largest opposition party with 135 lawmakers. The breakaway gives Özel's party 91 seats in the country's 600-member parliament, making it the country's second largest parliamentary bloc. After the mass resignations, its strength falls to just 44 seats, pushing it into the fourth place behind the pro-Kurdish Dem party. The move comes 2 months after a court removed Özel as the CHP leader. It annulled the party's 2023 leadership contest and reinstated his predecessor to the post. Özel's rise had revived the CHP, leading the party to a landmark victory in the March 2024 local elections, where it defeated Erdogan's AKP across much of the country. Since then, the opposition has faced growing judicial pressure. At least 27 CHP mayors are currently behind bars. Hundreds of party officials have been detained or arrested on graft allegations, including Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, who is, remember, widely regarded as one of Erdogan's strongest challenger for presidency. With that, it's a wrap on Race to Power tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. News and updates will continue. Bye-bye.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into